Let's just start with sort of the basics. Like, what is intermittent fasting? Because the term is thrown around a lot. If you read sort of any magazine, I go through the aisles on, at Publix, and I see intermittent fasting basically on every sort of health magazine that there is. And so what is intermittent fasting sort of in a general sense?
That's a great question. And you're absolutely right. So many people are using that term. And really, it's a broad term that can mean many different things, similar to the word exercise. The word exercise can mean many different things. So can the term intermittent fasting. And so to help specify what that means, a broad definition would be a period of time in which individual is not eating or consuming liquid calories for 12 or more hours. That's a little bit of an arbitrary definition because we all quote unquote intermittently fast when we go to sleep at night and not eat for a period of usually 6 or more hours for most people. But having said that, there's a number of different types of intermittent fasting, just like there's a number of different types of exercise. So a few of the more popular types of intermittent fasting are time-restricted eating, which involves daily changing the time in which a person consumes food versus the time in which food is not consumed, specifically increasing the time in which food is not consumed and decreasing the time in which food is consumed. The most popular type of time-restricted eating, I think, would be called the 16-8 plan, where a person tries to not consume any liquid calories or eat anything for those 16 hours, and then limits their food and beverage consumption to an 8-hour period. And that, I think, is what most people think of when they hear the word intermittent fasting. But really, it's just one type of intermittent fasting. And there's multiple types of time-restricted feeding. So let's just stay on time-restricted feeding for a minute. It could be a 14-10 program, or it could be an 18-6 program, or it could be a 24 program. It just depends, I think, on the person's goals, what works for them. But those are all types of time-restricted feeding. And then to get back into other types of intermittent fasting, probably the other more common approach would be called alternate day fasting, where literally one day a person would not consume any food or liquid calories. Water would be okay, as with coffee in most programs. And then the next day would consume food and drinks as they desired, and then would repeat that process over and over. And so that's why it's called alternate day fasting. And I think that is another alternative approach that's pretty popular, but not as popular as the time-restricted eating approach. Another variation that's gaining popularity, I think, is called the 5-2 diet, dietary approach to intermittent fasting, where essentially on 2 days of the week, the person would engage in a fasting 24-hour period. Usually those are not consecutive days. So for example, on a Wednesday and a Sunday of a given week, the person might engage in fasting and then eat normally or as they desired on the other 5 days of the week. So that's another form of intermittent fasting that's relatively popular. In my mind, those are probably the top 3 popular approaches to intermittent fasting, but certainly there's many, many other approaches, such as Ramadan fasting, dry fasting, and we could go on, but I'll stop there for the moment.